Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Micah and part of Everyday May is my very first ever story time video. And I knew I wanted to do this video because the Backstreet Boys are back. Oh yeah. So I grabbed myself a cup of tea. I suggest you do the same. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be, but I may also forget things as we're talking about this, but let's just start with the premise that I used to be an avid Backstreet Boys fan, and they still hold a soft spot in my heart. That being said, I think this video goes live, and then in 2 days or so, they are playing the Ziggo Dome in Amsterdam, and yes, I have a ticket. So I'm still going to go see them. I'm no longer gonna go on tour like I used to. So without further ado, let's just get to my story time about my life as a Backstreet Boys fan. So before we get to things, to the nitty-gritty stuff, I think we need to start at the beginning. How did I become a Backstreet Boys fan? Well, I don't really remember. The only thing I remember was I was probably still in primary school, like mid-90s, like 96 when their album was out. I was like on the verge of going to high school, and that was the summer that I became a fan. I believe Get Down was a single in the charts, which, not one of their best, let's put it that way. But yeah, that was what was hip and happening at the time, and like many people, like many girls my age, you became a fan of a pop group because it was the late 90s, and that's kind of what you did. So, you know, very, very shortly after that, we had Spice Girls, we had NSYNC, we had the start of Britney and Christina and like all the good stuff. So that was definitely the day and age where like pop groups were really at their height of like popularity, you could say. You have like cycles going around, of course, so every decade or so there are a couple of these groups or artists that come up, and it's like the pop group of that decade. And I think Backstreet was definitely one of them for the 90s. So they first became popular in Europe, which is where I'm at. First Germany and the Netherlands and England. And then later on, of course, it took like a good year and a half before they had their breakthrough in the US. And yeah, so I was, I think, 11 going on 12. It definitely happened because friends of mine were listening to their music. But then, of course, you're not really a fan yet. I mean, you start idolizing them, you start looking, you know, I wanted to watch every single interview on MTV. It slowly but surely started to build that way, but at the time, I only had my pocket money, and my parents weren't going to sponsor me and like buy me all this like expensive merch. So they were like, you need to pay for this yourself. So I definitely learned my lesson, like dealing with money through the entire Backstreet Boys experience. It's like a very core part of my being, you could say. Because I was only giving like a couple of euros every month, or every week, I should say. And what I did with that money was buy magazines. So I still have scrapbooks filled with all of the interviews and like magazine articles that I could find. So that's what I used to do. And of course they were on TV all the time. And this was before the internet was really like a thing, of course. So you were very much dependent on like, you know, what was written in magazines and what was going on, whether they were in your country and being interviewed by the big presenters of the day. So that you would then set your VCR for because you wanted to videotape it. YouTube was not around, but I definitely think that because of the internet and that happening, and the Backstreet Boys, at least their management, being very clever, trying to get on board as soon as it started to become a very big thing, and that's when they started doing that as well. So I also think that if it hadn't been for the internet, I wouldn't have become the fan that I ended up becoming when I was in my late teens and early 20s, because that's how they got staying power. So as a teenager, like I had very little means. I didn't have the money to go see them live all the time. I did see them live twice, in 98 and 99. Both times my mom was there. The first time was just me and my mom. And then in 99, I went with some school friends, and then my mom was there as well, I think, and some like other mothers were there too. So we had bought tickets all together. And yeah, that was very enjoyable. It was very cool. I remember that being like 98, 99, so I was like 14, 15 years old. Those were some of the first concerts I ever went to as well, so it's sort of tied into that whole thing as well. But I didn't really start becoming a fan until I got online, which I think we're talking like early 2000s here. It was very much chat rooms and message boards. That was like all the hype. And I would stay at school because I think we had this like whole computer room at school that had been newly built, and you could use the computer for your personal means after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So me and my friends would always stay, and then we would just be browsing websites in our own spare time. Up until 3 o'clock, you had to use it for school purposes. But after 3, you could stay around and do that. So that's what we did, nerds as we were. And that's when I really discovered chat rooms and things like message boards. And that's when I really started connecting with other fans. Because by that time, they actually canceled their Black and Blue tour because AJ went into rehab. So they didn't do the European leg of that tour. And because of that, I felt that mainstream media was definitely no longer paying a lot of attention to them anymore. At least that's how I look back on it. I'm pretty sure they did, but it just felt like it was like dwindling down. They also had a bit of a hiatus at that moment. So the internet definitely took place. And because I was able to connect with other fans, it definitely kept everything going for me. I read a lot of fan fiction at the time. And when I moved out to go to college, I didn't have any internet in my room, but I would actually go to the university computer rooms like once or twice a week at night to chat with people and to talk to people and do all that. So it took a good couple of years until I had my own internet connection in my student rooms. So once I got that, of course, I started spending even more days online. And because I was connecting with other people, that's also when I was like, oh wait, so it's a thing. You can go to multiple concerts and you can try and meet them and do things like that. So back in, when was it? 2005, which is when they had their big comeback, you could say. That was the year I went on an exchange to the US. And I was there, I think I'd been there for like 2 weeks or so. And then all of a sudden, a single dropped and a tour was announced, and they were coming to a town that was only an hour away from where I was staying, which, I mean, I was in the US, like they could have gone everywhere, but they were coming to a place very close to my place. And then someone who I met online was like, hey, I'm in DC. Do you want to come to DC to come and see the show with me as well and stay at my place? I was like, yeah, sure. So that's what happened. And then I met someone at one of those other concerts who I'm still in touch with. So it really sort of became this part of my life where I just met loads of people and I had a great time. So after doing 2 shows for the Up Close and Personal tour, I think it was called, back when they were just literally trying to see if they still had fans at the time. So they were playing small clubs, like 700, 800 people, just to see if people still wanted them. And it was actually quite successful. So they did a little show in Europe as well, which I was still in the US for that, so I never went there. But then they went on their Never Gone tour in the fall of 2005, and that's when I did 3 concerts. And then I started sort of slowly but surely realizing that I could achieve the things that as a teenager I had only dreamed of. So that's what I started doing. And it cost me quite a bit of money too. At the time it was still free to enter the soundcheck lottery, I think. So that's when they started doing soundcheck parties in 2005, which now is like a complete circus. Like, I don't know. They were truly one of the first artists, I think, that really started to find other ways to make money than record sales, you could say. And one of them was soundcheck parties, which you can now buy. But at the time it was still like a lottery and you would just win whether you could get in. And I won and I got in with my friend and it was a lot of fun. And then I think for a little while they again went off to do some solo things. I think I saw Brian at like this Christian music festival. I don't like Christian music, but hey, he did a Christian album, so then you go and see his Christian music set. So we did that, and then in 2005, that was probably the year of my fandom height, you could say. So the album that was out was Unbreakable, And in the spring of 2008, they toured Europe. And I think I went to 7 different shows. I think so. So together with a friend, we were like the 2 people who were always traveling together. And then AJ also did a solo tour, so we did that too. We sort of tagged that on at the end. And so we did a couple of those shows, and then I traveled to the US in 2008, and then I had met up with a friend of mine, and we were going to go to the Atlantic City show in the House of Blues. And it's especially that year in 2008 where sort of all of my 12-year-old dreams came true. I met them several times. I never really was the kind of fan who like seeks them out in their downtime. I never really went to hotels or like bars or restaurants where they were at and like wait outside. I think I waited outside a hotel like 2 or 3 times in my life. And one of them I will tell you about in a minute. And then, so 2008 was definitely like the highlight for me in terms of fandom. And then they did the This Is Us tour in 2009. And I remember being on that tour, like again, I had tickets for 5 different shows, the whole VIP stuff, the whole 9 yards, going all out, road tripping with friends. And I remember being at the last show of that leg and giving away my front row spot to a friend. And I stood in the back and I was like, yep, I've achieved everything that I would like to achieve. The next step would be to get onto their tour bus and to get to know them personally. And I do not want that because I want part of the dream to be there. Like, I don't want to know them as persons because I don't think I'd like them all that much. So I was like, I've done everything that I ever wished for by that time. So I had been front row center at different concerts. I'd seen them up close. I talked to them for a few minutes. Like I've done everything that I could possibly want to do. And I was like, yeah, that's it. I'm done. Like I don't remember it really being like one moment where that happened, but I just remember being at that last show that I went to in 2009 and just standing there and going like, yeah, I've seen what I needed to see. I've done what I needed to do, and I'm happy. This is it. Now they are coming back with a new tour and a new album, new tour. And of course I need to go see them. I just, whenever they will come to the Netherlands, I will still go. However, I'm not going to travel around Europe anymore. I'm no longer going to try and buy tickets via StubHub to see them play a show in the States. I'm not going to travel around for them anymore. Most of the people I still talk to people who I know from that time period, but the people who I hung out with most, like most of them are now parents, or everybody's gone in different directions in their lives. And what I found a lot with when you are connected through a particular band, one particular cultural thing, once people start losing interest in that thing, the friendship also dissipates. And that's okay. I mean, I still have very fond memories of everything Backstreet related, and I know that's not the case for everyone who I met at the time. But yeah, I met some great people through that, and I definitely met a lot of people from different walks of life that I would not have met, because music can connect people together who would not normally connect, I think. And I think that was really, really cool as well. I met a ton of great people through it, and even though we're not like hanging out weekly or anything like that, I know that if I go to that concert, I'm going to see tons of people that I know. It was the same like 4 or 5 years ago when I went with my cousin. I was walking around, she's like, you know everybody here. I'm like, yeah, I used to be on that side of the fence. And so yeah, I just have a regular general admission ticket for the concert on Thursday, and we'll see. I'm pretty sure I'll enjoy myself. I haven't even listened to the new album. I'm a bad fan. I haven't even listened to the DNA album. Let me take you back to 2008, which is when I was at the height of my Backstreet career, you could say. Let me take another sip. Because what I did at the time was make this. I made a complete picture book, and this contains an entire concert in photos, but it also contains all of the other fun memories that are tied to the 2008 Unbreakable tour for me. So that's why I wanted to show you some pages from this to talk you through my experience in that tour and just take you a little bit down, well, memory lane, you could say, on the Unbreakable tour when I went to Atlantic City. So I had this thing signed. At the time they were a foursome because Kevin had decided to do other things, mainly becoming a dad. And this is what I did to the first page. So this includes also some pictures from the AJ McLean, the solo shows he did. The picture you got when you were in a sound check. These are all of the dates that I went to. So I went to the Unbreakable tour and I also went to the solo tour. So I did 3 dates for that. And then I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different shows of the Unbreakable tour in, let me see, I went to Rotterdam, I went to Frankfurt, I went to Oberhausen, I went to Liverpool, I went to Luxembourg, but that didn't happen because there was a fire alarm and that was cancelled. I went to Brussels, I went to Birmingham, and then I went to the House of Blues in Atlantic City, as I said. And then for the Rotterdam show, I won soundcheck. So I have a picture here. Maybe if I can find a digital picture of this, then maybe I'll find that. But then you were given a group picture, and if you bought VIP, then you were given a individual picture. And nowadays they're like, you can sit on stage with them, like depending on how much you pay, you can get like front row tickets and all that. But this was still the day and age where you could just stay in front of the door and get a front row seat. So then in Oberhausen, we bought soundcheck tickets, so VIP. And that's when I did this. So I got that picture right there. And then for AJ, we also bought all of the VIP tickets. So that's what's going on here. So those are all of my VIP photos with AJ. And then I know that a lot of people will be shocked to see this, but of course this was still in the day and age that you didn't get your concert ticket on your phone. So I had paper tickets for all of them. And I turned it into a page. So that's the actual concert, and then I have a concert in pictures. And then something really cool happened. So I was given this like freebie ticket to join a VIP for free. And I didn't have a ticket yet. I didn't know I was going to be traveling to the US right until like 2 months before it. That's when I start planning the trip. It ended up being a trip of a lifetime. That would be another story time for you. But I decided I wanted to go to a Backstreet Boys concert because they were touring the US while I was touring the US, you could say. So I knew I wanted to go to one of their concerts, and then my friend who I had met in 2005 was like, well, let's go to the Atlantic City one, because if you come to Jersey, we can take a bus down to Atlantic City. We can sort of stay there the night and see how things play out. And that show was absolute mayhem. However, I have some very, very fond memories attached to this concert, and I truly believe that it's this show that ultimately made me no longer a fan. I think that if this hadn't happened, that my fandom would have continued for quite some time. But what happened was that there was a show that was canceled, and that meant that Howie and Brian went back to their families, but Nick and AJ decided to stay in New York City. I found this out the day I arrived in New York City. So of course what I did was a little bit of Googling, and I found out what hotel they were staying at. I was pretty sure where they were at. So I decided to see on the last day that they were going to be there, because they had to move on to their next date, whether I could meet them. And this is something I had only done like once or twice before, always with the help of others, never of my own accord. So I found them, and then I think I stood there for like 30 minutes, and that's when they started coming out. And that's when I got these pictures. So this was the very first time I ever really got a successful picture at a hotel. But then what happened was that the House of Blues show ended up being the smallest venue on the entire tour. What happened actually once we got inside, it was mayhem, right? I was one of the last people to get out of the actual sound check because I was last in line, because I had to wait till everyone, because I had that free ticket. So I had to wait for everyone to go before I was allowed to go. And by the time I got outside the door of the venue, everybody was starting to go back in already. So I kind of like just walked along with the tide, had my ticket check, and I end up second row. And there was one lady in front of me, not that tall. I was like, great, this will be lovely. Smallest venue, I'm happy. And she asked me, could I please step outside because I would like to see some merchandise. I was like, yeah, sure. Could you try and hold my spot? Sure, I'll try to see if I can hold a spot right in front of the gate front row. You try doing this in Europe, people would kill you. You would never be able to get back in. But still, over there, apparently it worked because people weren't pushing. It was all quite a nice atmosphere. And then the lights started to turn down for the opening act. And this lady hadn't returned. So I asked the girl standing next to me, like, do you think she might be coming back? It's like, oh, no. She asked security and she actually got a seat because she can't stand for very long. So I was like, so what happens to the spot? It's yours. And there I was, front row center, smallest venue on the entire Unbreakable tour. I had AJ like jump down right in front of me, sing like right at me like that. I had Nick do the same thing. Nick stood up on the banisters at the end. Everybody started pushing. So I was like, with my face like stuck to his stomach like that. It was very unpleasant. I cannot recommend. But I think that experience, like having done that, I just felt that nothing could top it ever in my life. Which is why by the time that next album came around and everything else that was going on, my heart just wasn't in it anymore. So that is the Unbreakable tour from 2008 in like a not so short nutshell for me. I have all those memories attached to it, and that's why I just felt because it couldn't be topped, it would be very difficult to do so, and that's why for me it was just done in the end. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed this story time with me. Let me know in a comment down below if you'd like to see more of these. Maybe I can do a few other things. I don't know. If you'd like to see my Backstreet Boys collection, because I still have everything that I've ever collected. There's much more besides this little book. Then let me know. If you would like to give this video a thumbs up because you enjoyed it, that would be lovely. Subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more by me. And yeah, we're very close to the end of Everyday May. So very soon I will be going back to my usual schedule. But you will still have plenty of videos coming your way. So I hope you want to stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video. Have a great day. Bye!